I mean, at this point, are New Trek writers even qualified to answer this question? Well, hello there and welcome to the video. So, I just got done watching probably the most confusing and ridiculous episode of Strange New Worlds. It's Season 3, Episode 7, entitled, What is Starfleet? A question, as I've said, that the New Trek writers are completely incapable and unqualified of answering. This episode leans in heavily to trying to answer this question and fails miserably, and it ends answering the question in the most generic, stupid, unintelligent way. Before we get into too much detail, if you are new here and I've earned your subscription, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to give the video a like as well. That'd be really great. I suppose really we should get into the meat of the episode. Now, this episode is filmed in a documentary style. It's filmed really awkwardly and everyone's really oddly framed, like this, or like this, or like this. It's so jarring. It actually detracts from what the episode is trying and failing what it's attempting to accomplish. Now, it asks the question, what is Starfleet? But it creates for me, a huge question. What the hell were they thinking in the first place? And the episode sort of raises so many more questions about where they thought they were going with this episode. First and foremost, the biggest question I have is Starfleet's getting involved in this conflict between two species, which Starfleet never really does. It's not really in the Starfleet charter. It's not what Starfleet's all about. And there's a bunch of questions that are asked in this documentary style episode. What separates the Federation from an empire? And it asks all these sort of really interesting questions and then just doesn't answer them. And like I said, it raises a lot of questions. Why is Starfleet getting involved in a conflict between two species outside the Federation? It shouldn't even be a thing. Starfleet doesn't do that. You know, this bastardization of the Federation and Starfleet and this attempt to break down what the Federation is and to deconstruct Starfleet and ask questions, is it really a malicious organization? I think detracts from the spirit of Gene Roddenberry's message in the first place about what the Federation is, with this character in Star Trek. And it is a character in itself, this organization. And they've done it before with Picard, you know, when they tried to make Starfleet this kind of dark, sinister organization, when he goes, it stopped being Starfleet. They try to twist Starfleet and the Federation. And this documentary, I mean, it's filmed in the angles are so off-putting. You just don't pay any attention to the episode, to the content of the episode. Now, they're going through an ethical quandary. You know, the use of life forms, in this case, some sort of livestock that is capable of flying through space, or they're becoming capable of flying through space, and they're used for all the kinds of purposes. Now, that the use of creatures and, you know, the use of life forms is essentially slaves and livestock. Again, it flies in the face of everything the Federation stands for. You know, the question at the beginning, does Starfleet impose its will? Does the Federation impose its will? Well, both an empire and the Federation do impose its will on others. It's like, the documentary is done by Erica Ortega's I Fly the Ship's brother. And you know that those questions are kind of one-sided, they're kind of biased. It's a very sort of one-sided documentary. And at the end, the answer to the question, I think the answer to the question is, oh, Starfleet is the people. It's the people that define Starfleet, not Starfleet defining the people. That kind of really generic, garbled message, hope and positivity, without actually having any intelligent writing behind it. This episode was a hodgepodge of different ideas, and I feel that the episode would have actually worked a lot better if it wasn't filmed in this documentary style. You know, they're using security footage from the Enterprise, which when the Enterprise goes into red alert, did you know all the cameras start recording on the ship? And they're all really awkward angles. You get the top of people's heads, and you get some really awkward angles in the bridge. You got this, you got Ortega's his brother filming from really far away, you know, secret meetings and stuff, and it says all the stuff's been declassified in the spirit of transparency. It's like, why is Starfleet getting involved in the first place? This is corrupt admiral territory, and a lot of it's not really very well explained, and everything's so distracting. This episode's trying to be really artistic and failing because it's just this absolute mess of an episode. And Benga's being interviewed, and some of the questions were really funny and sort of felt really out of place. In fact, most of the questions felt really out of place. There were some absolute bangers. He asks, has Starfleet ever ordered you to kill anyone? It's like, and I feel like if I was asked that question, if I was a member of Starfleet and I was asked that question, I'd be like, the fuck you on about, mate? You do realise Starfleet isn't like that. We're not a hit squad. We're not Section 31. The idea that they're practically orgasming over every single opportunity that they get. This is Starfleet. This is supposed to be their classic Starfleet that we all know and love. But again, it's a bastardization of Star Trek and Starfleet and the Federation. And asking the question, trying to deconstruct it, does nothing. It's ridiculous episode. It's such a mess. It's par for the course with season 3, of course, because they're just trying all these gimmicky ideas whilst not really exploring any strange new worlds and answering questions in just the most generic, unintelligently written way. I feel like a lot of these scripts are written by AI, and I actually asked an AI, do you think Star Trek Strange New Worlds is written by AI? And it responded, there's no proof to suggest that Star Trek Strange New Worlds is written by AI, but it could be written by AI. Which I fucking found hilarious. Star Trek has done this sort of episode before. It's done, Galaxy's Child, Space Organisms, Tin Man, to name a few. I think The Cloud was one from Voyager, which I found quite interesting, a living nebula. It's always answered these questions to a relatively satisfactory degree. This episode did not. It felt like a 5-year-old playing with toys and coming up with a script along the way for an episode that just completely missed the mark. It was truly bizarre. Now, I know I'm leaving a lot out of this episode because, again, I'm trying to make sense of what I've just seen. Everything was so distracting. The episode was so badly structured that it ended up not making a lot of sense. And a lot of the questions that were asked may have been answered in some dialogue that you couldn't hear because it was being filmed from a distance, and a lot of the responses were redacted. It's just a giant mess of an episode, and a complete waste of time. I feel like I've wasted my time watching this episode, and I do hope you haven't felt like you've wasted your time watching this review, but that's it's so hard to explain how bad this episode is. It's a bastardization of Star Trek. New Trek it usually is, and it tries to deconstruct and ask questions that it's not intelligent enough to answer. And I think that's the real kicker here. And Benga's asked at one point if he's ever deleted logs or records or security footage from sickbay. Why has he asked that in the first place? Where are these questions coming from? Why would characters ask these questions? A lot of the questions are really dumb, moronic and stupid. There was just not enough in this episode to even answer its own stupid questions. Like I said, they are not qualified to answer what is Starfleet. We all know what Starfleet is because we feel it when we're watching classic Star Trek. It is still flawed. It's not perfect. It is a utopia. The Federation's a utopia. Again, you feel like they're trying to bring this idealistic idea down to some kind of grounded reality, when really what they're doing, they are trying to deconstruct the Federation, like they've tried to deconstruct all of these different characters, and they've destroyed a lot of new Trek characters, especially Jean-Luc Picard, because he needed to be deconstructed. and beaten down, just like everything else in New Trek. You won't get anything out of this episode that you haven't already gotten from actual good Star Trek. It delivers nothing new, and it just gives us the same generic crap over and over again, and Strange New Worlds is doing that. I cannot wait for that Vulcan episode where they all turn into Vulcans. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts. However disjointed and garbled they may be, I do apologize. I can't really give you a breakdown of the proper breakdown of the episode because I'm still trying to process everything that happened. And it was a lot that happened, but a lot of nothing. These people are just not qualified to answer these questions that they themselves have asked. It is honestly like a computer trying to understand an idea created by a human being. It's ridiculous. We'll go through this episode a little bit more in an evening in 10 forward. We try not to go too much into New Trek. We want to try and stay positive. There's lots of good news. So that's my live show on a Friday. Please join us for that. We'll break it down a little bit more. We'll get more people involved in the conversation. And until then, you look after yourselves. You look after one another. I'm going to go and try and recover whatever intelligence I have lost from this episode. I will see you in the live stream tomorrow. And if not, I will catch you in the next video. Until then, look after yourselves. Look after one another. Take care. Oh my God, my brain hurts. Bye-bye for now.
Silence, stop the violence of the war in my head. Time's the healer, the eraser of all done and said. And as I fall back to my shelter, I know I'll only find peace in your smile.